All right, thanks for checking out this video. We are going to be doing a transmission rebuild on this Borg Warner T19 transmission rather. The T18 T19, as I understand, are basically the same transmission with some little bit of a variance. This is out of an 87 F350. This is a part of a dump truck rebuild restoration I'm doing. And I pulled this out. It was making a little bit of noise. I think the bearings are just starting to go bad. So I decided just to do a whole rebuild on it. So like I said, T19, T18, very much similar. As I understand, the only difference is the T19 has two PTO plates. So you have the PTO plate on this side, and then I have my actual PTO on this side. And some synchronizers. I forget which is, I think the T18 first and second aren't synchronized, and they are on this, or vice versa. I'm not really sure. I'll probably find out when I get in there. But so yeah, we're going to open this up. We're going to go through, change out the bearings, and I don't know. It's my first time doing one of these, this style transmission. I've done bearings and other manual transmissions, but not this model. Pretty popular transmission, used in a lot of different vehicles throughout the years. I think there are some differences between some of the older models and the newer models. So just be aware of that if you're doing one of these. I think the bearing sizes might even be a little bit different on some of them. But yeah, that's it. The first thing we're gonna do, well, we're gonna get our gloves on. We'll take this top plate off after I get my gloves on. Try to top plate off, and then we'll work on these bearings. That's going to be the hardest part of the. This is just the shift forks. They look okay. I don't see any major damage. A little bit of wear on there on this front. Actually, quite a bit of wear. Yeah. I'll have to take a look at that later. So there it is. Definitely have some wear on these teeth. See that? Chips broken off. That is where it's come in contact with the bottom gear set. So we'll get that out and see how it looks. Everything else looks really, really good. Not seeing any major issues. All right, we'll get this retainer off here, this front. This is the input side. Slide that off. There's a seal in there that they didn't give me. At least I didn't see it. I hope they gave it to me. Alrighty, let's see here. I'm gonna get this bearing. We'll get these snap rings off. Just a standard snap ring, nothing crazy there. We'll do this other side at the same time. Wait, that. Oh, it's pressed on the shaft, that's why. Okay, never mind. This bearing off will be our next tackle here. I don't even think I used this big one. Oh boy. That I don't like. I mean, it's on there, but I don't think it's going to be good enough. Definitely need bigger bolts. Nice ring. Whenever you're talking about a driveline noise, at least my experience is it definitely can travel. Oh yeah. It's not terrible. Not terrible, but it's a little rough. Try to pop this one off too. Good deal, it worked. I almost didn't try because they were just didn't fit, but it worked. Well, that one feels much better. So the input bearing feels and sounds much better. The output bearing was the one that had a little bit of noise. All right, so here we're working on getting the input shaft off. I was having a little trouble with this, and then I noticed there's a flat spot on the shaft. And that flat spot, you position it on down, facing down, and it gives you enough space to slide it over the cluster gear. Originally, I thought that the output shaft had come off, but it's the input side. And then once you figure that out, it's a little sticky on there, but then you can get it out and it'll slide right out on you. The needle or roller bearings. Oh, that does come out of there. Okay, good. Well, that makes a lot more sense. So all of these needle bearings, roller bearings, needle bearings, I'm not sure. So we got new ones of those for that. Not too worried about those. All right, so we're working on getting the gear assembly out, and I messed around with it for a little bit. Thought I could slide it out without getting the reverse fork off, or lever, reverse lever, but there just isn't enough room, so I had to go ahead and take the reverse lever off. I didn't think you can get that off with the gear assembly in there, but you can. I just took that off, and it was able to slide right out. Okay, we got this shift lever out. The bolt, we had to heat it up to get that bolt out. So now I think this should come out a lot easier. I gotta get it angled up. There we go. Oh yeah, that's better. Woo. There we go. Woo. All right, we can get a look in here. Gears look pretty good. There's one chip out of this main gear. We see some rounding there on that reverse gear. That's where it was hitting the gear on the output shaft. This is all rolling nice. There was a chip on this gear over here, right there. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get this two shafts out. One's the reverse. I don't know if you can see in here, the reverse shaft. And then this, I think, is just they call it an idler or a counter shaft. Just so I can clean it out good. There's a lot of shavings in there. So we're just gonna drive this out with the brass punch. All right, so after I got this side cover off, I realized I can get a better angle at this shaft to drive out that reverse gear. Doggone it. There we go. Okay. Nice. Now there are two shims or washers, thrust washers on the tail end of this, at least on mine. Our reverse. Look at that. That baby's chewed up. Somebody been shifting on that. Whew. Yeah, so let's see. So we could see these pieces on the end here. Oop. Trying to hold this. There we go. All right, so yeah, you can see the two. And then on this end, there were also two. It's tough to see them now, but when I get that out, I can show you. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. What are you? Yeah. Oh boy. You'll be all right. I don't remember where these go. All right, we got it all cleaned up. Got it on the chair here. We're just gonna get painted up. Wire brush, degreaser, a little bit of paint. Turned out pretty good. Happy with it. Case turned out nice and clean, as I mentioned. Glad we took everything out. I think that's definitely the way to go. But now the challenge begins to get this all together. A couple things to call out. The kit that I bought didn't come with seals. So we got an oil seal, there's a front and a back. So I got to order those, and it didn't come with O-rings for these rods. I have an O-ring kit, and I could probably find something that would work, but I'm a little bit skeptical of doing that because if it's not a perfect fit, these are pretty soft still. They weren't leaking before. I'm going to put some assembly lube on all of these openings for all these shafts to ride on, and I'm going to call it good. So hopefully I don't have any trouble with these seals, or these O-rings. But if you're looking to do this, get your seals. Make sure you have, I got all the gaskets, I got all synchronizers, I got the bearings, front output, input bearing. here, I'll just show you. So we got the synchronizers, the shims. This plate was missing on mine. I think this is just like an oil retainer type plate. But there's shims in here and then new snap rings. So everything, this very comprehensive kit. All the gaskets, but no oil seals. So it may be because you don't, like this is a pull off part. You can replace this without taking the transmission out. Same thing with the other shaft. So, you know, maybe if you had a 2-wheel drive, the oil seal is on the tail shaft, but on mine it's on the transfer case. So, because this is out of a 4-wheel drive. But anyway, I want to make sure that this is just where the bearings ride here, so I'm not super worried about it. Actually, I'll probably wipe most of this out. This is as much on these. All right, so during this is going to be my best friend here. Just kind of shows me step-by-step parts diagram here to show me where the pieces go in which order in the sequence. So I'm going to be referencing that as I go along here for anything that may not look like it's jiving. So we'll get to it here, starting with this bottom cluster gear, it's called. This is our cluster gear. This is all cleaned up, ready to roll. This shaft goes inside. And then we have a washer. I'm kind of talking to myself as I'm doing this. And on the other side, we're going to have the same thing. A washer. And then the needle bearings are going to go in there. So I'll probably do one side first, then do the other side. I'll show you how we're going to do that. So we are going to use some assembly lube or assembly goo. It's just a heavy grease that's going to dissolve. And we're just going to place these inside there. If I can pull this up, show you. We're just going to place those in like that, and we're just going to feed them all the way around. And this grease is going to help hold them in. I can push it out there, and I don't know if you could see that. Let me get the camera down there. And then this lube, yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it, but this lube will dissolve, and it'll just mix right in with the gear oil. So we're good, and these are all the same. So I got 4 for this cluster gear and 1 for that. I'm just going to put that over there. I'm going to put this one on the end of this. Push that in a little bit. I'm going to put some grease on there. This grease does a nice job holding this all together. All right, we'll repeat this side a little bit different and do this way. pretty good. Yep, we're good on that. Just want to make sure you have them all in there. If they're at an angle, might get a little sketchy for getting them all in there. So they got to be nice and straight. So you can make sure you got them all in there. I mean, once you see that they're fairly straight, it's not like they have to be perfect. They fix themselves. Okay, so this piece can go in. We got washers on each end of this though. We got a washer and a thrust washer here. This I am going to replace on each side. Okay, so here's our new washers, thrust washers. These are going to go on. This one goes down to the gear first, and then this one on top. I'm going to lubricate these up. These notches are going to sit in our case. Notches are going to sit in our case. I'm thinking, yep, just like that. Just a little notch on each side. You can see that one right there. So we'll lubricate these. I'll probably put this thrust washer on top here. These are going to be tough to stay in there because we got to slide this in, and then it's got to stay there while we drive that pin through. I'll show you what I mean here. We'll see if that assembly lube. This first one will be okay because we can use the pin to kind of guide it. I don't know about the other one though. Where's my other? I just noticed something. The opening on these is different. This is the new one, this is the old one. See that opening? I'm going to use the old one. I'll use the old one with the new, whatever that washer is. I'm not sure why that's like that, but I don't want to take a chance with that. So let's put the old one on there. These, I don't think these are like a wearable part, so I'm not worried about that. Oh, don't do that. I was almost lost my bearings on there again. Really gobbing this end up because this is the end that's going in. The rod is going to go through. The rod's going to come down through here this way, so we'll be able to want to. Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's right. It's kind of supporting it from the middle. Do I have this in wrong? I do. Jeez. This goes this way. not starting out very good. Yeah, wrong way there, Vern. Alright, so this side's decent. Let's get our we'll get this side started just to hold up the shaft. I'm gonna get these washers in the right spot there. There we go. We'll get that side started to hold that up, and then I can get this side good. So let's see if we can see our washer. We know one's too high. Dadgummit, that one. There we go. I thought we were off on that, but I think we're good. Slide on this. I don't know if you could see in there. Our washers look pretty good. Bearings look pretty good still. We'll start working this rod in. So give it a little twist as we go. Oop. Looks good. Okay. Dadgummit! That took a little while. It wasn't that bad, actually, but we're good here. I like it. It's good. Gear's moving nice. Everything's real smooth in there, so no issues with anything binding. All right, step one complete. On to the main gear assembly in here, and then once we get that in, We'll get our reverse shaft back on. We will press our bearings in. All right, we're in the home stretch here. We're gonna set our main gear in there. The only thing I need to worry about on this one is this synchronizer assembly here. So anyway, the orientation of this is what I'm concerned with right now. Whether this end goes in first or this end. And each of these notches is going to match up with the notch there. I'm going to look at the pictures, stop frigging around with this so I know what I'm doing here. Stand by. Okay, so looking at the pictures, we have this correct right now as it is. This section with the line is facing in. So we're just going to throw this baby in there. Kind of the same way we took it out. Get it up in here. It's heavy. Excuse me. Alright, so I'm in trouble. I'm going to put some assembly lube on here. To help keep this guy in there. All right, see if that helps hold that in there. So now we're going to get our input shaft bearings assembled in there. That will go in through there. We got to put our reverse linkage shifter back in there. We should probably do this now. Okay, that's better. We got to put our clip back in. That's good now. A little bit of trouble getting that in there, but had to kind of reshape the clip. I think we're good now. So it'll go the bearings and then our washer on the end. That'll slide in there. So there's a snap ring that goes on the end of this synchronizer assembly. That holds that on there. I'm not sure why I took that off. If you don't need to take that off, I wouldn't bother. Then you don't have to worry about this assembly. So you have a couple different size rings, snap rings. You have the larger one. The largers are for the bearing ends, I believe, and then the smaller one is for here. And then you have the two larger for each end. That's the way it's looking. Yes, much better, I think. Here. There we go. Good. Snapped right in. We're going to use the new ones. try it like I did that last one. Okay, so I'm going to be real careful we don't knock these out. This is a tight fit. Just gonna kind of ease it in there. There we go. We're gonna, oh, I think this flat spot goes down towards the cluster gear on the bottom, and it gives you space to slide it in. Yep. So that flat spot faces down. We're just gonna ease that on there. Careful not to lose any of those pilot rollers. Good. Okay. So now our bearing, input bearing on this end, snap ring after we press it on. So we're going to press our two bearings on, and I think we're in real good shape. Everything's going together pretty good. Let me slide this new bearing on to get it started, and then we'll figure out how we're going to get it pressed in here. Okay, so as we're putting this bearing back on the input side, I realized that looking at the diagram and then reflecting back on a video I had watched, that we're missing an oil baffle that goes in between the first sprocket and the bearing, and then we're also missing a washer on the output side that I didn't show. So we're just going to back up here, pull this bearing back out. And I did start to tap it in. I'm going to pull it out, and then we're going to get our oil baffle in there, and then make sure we get the washer. So just a heads up, it's definitely helpful to have the diagram, and just be careful when you're putting everything back together that you're following the diagram to get the orientation of everything correct. All right, since we don't well, since I didn't have this oil baffle, it has a raised edge on the one side and recessed on the other. So my thought here is the raised edge goes against the bearing to allow it space. Because if I put it this way, the outer edge of the oil baffle will hit the outer side of the bearing. So we're going to go this way so it's nice, and when it's on there perfectly it doesn't hit. School recess. That goes on there, and our bearing will go back on. So on the output side, it's bearing, washer, snap ring. So we're good to go ahead with the bearing on that side. Okay. We're going to get this over to the bearing press. This is probably going to be the hardest part about this job because of the weight of this thing and getting it in the press, in and out. And but we'll give it a run, see how we do. All right, we got our bearings in here. Not too bad. A little challenging to get it up on the press. You could probably do it without a press, but a press makes it a little bit easier because you kind of have to, one has to be held in while the other one's driven in. So this bearing retainer, the input bearing retainer, I got to wait for this seal. The only call out that I have on this is this oil gallery. You want to make sure that lines up with the gallery on the housing. I'll show you a picture of that. So that section will line up on the bottom, because I think it could go wrong. So you don't want to put that up on the top, for instance, and then have your oil gallery be down low. You won't get oil into that bearing. So that also answers the question about that oil baffle. Excuse me. So the oil enters through here and sloshes around in there, and then that baffle keeps it all in there. So now we know. So I'm waiting for that seal. So we're just going to put our top plate on, make sure everything shifts good. So far, everything moves well, nice and smooth. It sounds a little bit better than it did. Okay, we'll get this buttoned up. We got to put our side plates on. We got to put our PTO on. That PTO I know is shimmed, because you want that gear to mesh correctly. I'm just going to use what was on there, and I think we'll be good. So we'll get that PTO back on, get our side plate on this side, top plate with the gasket, and we're rocking and rolling here. So that's it on our T19 rebuild. Real happy with this, how it came out. I think it was definitely worth doing. Had a little bit of a noise with the one bearing, and you know, it wasn't too bad to do, really. I think once I got in there and kind of had an idea of what was going on, it wasn't too bad. So I'm just waiting on that seal. I think a couple takeaways for me would be, if you're going to tackle one of these, is make sure that you have you got those seals in the O-rings. The O-rings for the cluster gear shaft and the reverse gear shaft. I'm hoping they're going to be okay. Like I said, they weren't hard or anything, so I think they're going to be fine. But you definitely want to do that seal, the input and output seal. And they didn't come with the kit I had. So if you're going to do this and you're looking for a kit with the bearings and gaskets, I would make sure that you're getting one that has the seals also. They're cheap to order separately, but you know, it's more of a timing thing for me right now. The only other thing I had major trouble with was that pin. So I was putting this all back together, and I filled it up before I put the top on, just because I thought it'd be easier to fill, and it was. But then when I was putting the top on, I had the shifter on, and I was pulling the shifter off, and the pin fell in to the housing again while it was filled with oil. Couldn't find it, had to drain the oil, lost a bunch of oil because I was moving it around. Long story short, I got it out, but yeah, be very careful with that pin for the shifter. And then I think that's about it. The only special tools, I think the bearing puller, I think mine was a 3-inch and it was just big enough. If you have anything under that, it's probably not gonna work for you. So a big bearing puller, brass punches, different ones, definitely need. You probably don't need a bearing press. You could probably do them, you know, a little bit at a time. And I didn't, if there's an adjustment for this for backlash or anything, I didn't do that. I don't feel anything. I don't feel any issues with anything. This bearing retaining plate might be part of that because this pushes on that front bearing. That bearing's fixed. Once it's pressed on the shaft, this one will move a little bit, but this retainer is what holds that on. So, and I'm just waiting for the seal before I fix that on. But I didn't have any issues with any of that stuff, so I think it's good. So yeah, we're all wrapped up. Glad we got this out of the way. Hopefully this video was able to help you out if you're tackling a job like this. You know, this might give you a couple tips and pointers along the way. So appreciate any comments or a like button or a subscribe if you're not subscribed already. I do have other truck videos similar to this you can check out on my page or on my channel. Thank you.